Hey friends, thanks for dropping in to watch this video where I'm going to give you the big reveal, show you all the data and great outcomes that we got from Ray Edwards' Copywriting Academy event. And before we go much further, be sure you subscribe below, ring the bell to get the notifications, because I'm only going to give you an overview of the very best findings from this event, but I have some follow-up videos to show you that will go into more detail about all the results that we got. So if you know me, you know that I'm all about keeping your customers forever, right? I'm not the prospecting guy or the Facebook ads, bring people into your funnel. But we're going to be talking all about keeping your customers forever. By customers, I mean your clients, your members, your students, your people on your email list, your attendees, anybody that you have a relationship with. And that's what this video is about, is showing you how we were able to keep those customers forever, and that includes many of you that were at Ray's event and received those emails after his event. I'm going to explain that whole process, so now you know why you received the email that you did and the results behind it. So we're going to do analysis of his event, a before, a during, and an after look. So before the event was July 25th. So before the event, you received two surveys, an Insight Survey 1 and cleverly named Insight Survey 2, 1 week apart, because the event was the 25th, so we wanted to get some information about your needs and wants and expectations before the event. And this is key, to be able to ask the right questions in the right way at the right time. And the time to ask your audience about their expectations and needs is before the event, right? So we're going to talk about those surveys, and I'm going to keep bringing up 2 points over and over again because they are so key to getting great results. And by great results, I mean getting attention of your people, getting them to focus on you, and remaining with you, as you'll see from this data. So we're going to talk a lot about closing the loop, that is sharing results back to the people that gave responses. And we're going to talk about representative results, which is almost never spoken of, but it is critical to this. So the Insight Survey is the one that you received July 9th. And so these questions might look familiar. What stage of your business are you in right now? What's one big challenge that you want solved at this event? We call those, that's two of the, I think, 4 questions that you were given. So what happened when you filled out that survey is the data came in, and then it was analyzed, and the results were sent to Ray and his team so that they can make a better event for you. And the results were sent to the speakers so that they could anticipate the challenges that you were facing. So if at the event you thought, wow, I wonder why we're being taught this, or we're kind of going in a different direction, it's because you, the audience, the attendees, said that's where you wanted to go. Look at the results that you see here. It was a copywriting event, but look, copy was actually the #2 challenge. The #1 challenge, as given by the attendees on the Insight Survey, was questions about mindset, fears, and need more clarity, and need more discipline and more focus. The second issue, biggest issue, was copy. The third was I need more money. The fourth was transitioning out. So there's actually 8 or 10 of these, and those were shared with Ray and his team and with the speakers. But you also got some results. You remember when you filled out that survey, I said in there, I'm going to close the loop. I'm going to share some results with you. And this message that you see here is exactly the message. I keep pointing down, but I probably should be pointing to the, to the side here. I'll point in all directions. But this email that you received was the results. That was the actual data. And you got to see that in the next email. That's called closing the loop. Not sharing all the results, but just some nuggets of results that would be useful to you, so you can know who else is going to be in that room with me. So this was actually a longer email, but I just clipped it off there as well. So closing the loop, sharing results with you, so terribly important because it demonstrates that your voice was heard, what you said made a difference. It shows how you compare to others. That's what close the loop is all about, so that when we ask you again, hey, I have another question for you, you'll answer it, because you'll say, wow, this was worth my time. Why do we fill out surveys? We never know. That's why we usually delete them. But to be told, hey, you're going to get some of these results so that you can learn from this, that's why people will respond. And it's good because we asked you another question. We call it the Insight Survey #2 that we gave them the following week. there was only 2 questions on there, I believe. There's this question that you see here. And then the second question, we introduced the speakers. It said, these are the speakers that will be at Copywriting Academy. Now, do you have any questions for these individuals? And then we, again, closed the loop. We took those questions, we passed them along to the speakers, and then we also sent you an email with some of the answers to those questions. So it looked like this on the close the loop. So these are the actual verbatim, I'll point one way or the other. These are the actual verbatim comments, questions that were given, asked of Mike Kim and Sarah Anna Powers and our other speakers. So your voice was heard, what you said made a difference, and that was shared with the key people that could do something about it. So how important is this to ask your people questions before an event? And I'm asking this now because this is, we're talking about Ray's event, but think about this in terms of your own events, your webinars that you give, any broadcasts you do on Hangouts, Facebook Lives, on YouTube, any live training that you do, anywhere where you're in front of that camera or on that stage. Why are you not asking the people who will attend before the event, what would really make this totally worth your while? What's a big challenge that you're facing? And then demonstrating to them that their voice was heard, and then taking those results and making your event better, making it more consistent with what they're looking for. And here's the data. The 5 yeses represent 5 speakers at Ray's event who personally told me that they took the results of what you had to say and incorporated it into their presentation. Look at the results. When we asked you at the event, did this speaker help you make your business better? 100% said yes. Most definitely, and then a few somewhat yes. 100% of the audience said that each of those 5 speakers made their business better. Why? Because they gave great advice, of course. But look at this compared to 2 speakers who told me for very good reasons that they were not able to incorporate the results. Big difference, eh? Now, these aren't terrible scores. If you take 47% who said definitely yes and 35 who said somewhat yes, that's 82%. And these 2 here is 80%. So 80% is pretty good, right? But it's not great. And that's the difference. So if you got 80 to 82% of your audience to say, yes, you really helped me, you might say, wow, I did a really good job. Only relatively. Look at the 5 people who took the actual feedback that was given and modified their, now they didn't change their whole talk, they might have just referenced some of the points, but the audience recognized it. They recognized that, hey, this is about me, and that's why they got the scores. So those that didn't incorporate the feedback, just gave their talks, well, they were able to keep the audience's attention, for sure. Those that incorporate the feedback are going to keep these people as fans forever. That's the difference. And that's what I want for your events, for your webinars, for any broadcasts that you do, for your online courses even, for your membership sites, everything where you incorporate people's feedback. You're asking the right questions in the right way at the right time, and then closing the loop. Makes all the difference. It turns people into fans. Why would they go anywhere else? And the answer is they won't. I've done this for chiropractors' offices, for corporate training programs. The whole notion of letting people know that their voice was heard, that their time was well spent answering your questions, and then incorporating that in. Why would they go anywhere else? You're listening to them. The other concept I said was important was representative results, and this is almost always neglected. Anybody that asks surveys, they rarely ever know what the response rate is. They'll say, well, I got 50 responses, or 10 people replied to my survey. And I say, well, 10, is that 10 out of 10? Is that 10 out of 100? Is that 10 out of 1,000,000? I don't know. It's just 10 responses. It makes a huge difference. If you're only hearing from 10 or 15 or even 20% of your audience, guess what? You're hearing from the extremes. And we know this, right? Because who fills out a survey? People who are really happy or people who are really unhappy? So what about the 80% in the middle? Those are the people you need to hear from. So the response rates for the Insights survey was 57%. I'm not happy with that because I want 100% of people to respond, but it's okay because it was the first time they were asked a question. You're going to see these numbers increase hugely over time here. I'm going to show you the rest of the data. The insights too was a drop to only 45%, which typically happens so close to an event. So I'm not terribly worried about that. But both of these numbers are high enough that I'd say, yes, I have confidence in these results that I'm hearing from about half of the people, which is plenty to get a representative sample of your audience. Okay, so that was before the event. During the event, we did two types of questions. One I call landing and discovery. We're not going to talk too much about that, but that was where I stood on stage and said, please evaluate, answer a couple of questions that popped up on your phone. You'll notice that those of you that had signed up with Messenger, a message would pop up saying, hey, how are we doing so far? Do you have any questions you want to ask that you didn't get a chance to ask? And some of you did it on Alexa. If you remember, some of you did it just talking into your phone. And then, of course, you're supposed to close the loop. I'm not going to say too much about this because it's probably not as relevant to you. And also, there were some breakdowns in this. This wasn't applied as well as it should have been. So I don't have good data to share. I don't have complete data to share. But we did do the speaker evaluations and got a good high response rate to those. So you'll remember at the event, here's Leslie Samuel, our great MC. If you need an MC for your event, this is the guy. When at some point during the event, up on your phone popped a notification, and the notification said, did Leslie Samuel make your business better with his advice? Yes or no, or something in between. And then people responded to that. And we did that for each speaker. So for Andy Mason, after he finished, we asked the same questions. Do you have any kind words to share? Do you have any kudos for him? And whatever you typed, we shared with him. We asked you, did you have any questions you didn't get a chance to ask? And we shared that with him. And you want to hear more from Andy? You want to hear more from Leslie? And we shared that with them as well. So what was going on behind the scenes is when you answered this, we took all that feedback and gave it to the speaker. So I hid the speaker's names here because that's not really important. But what's important is that every comment that you gave, I put here at the bottom, more ... but it was actually every comment that you gave verbatim was given to each speaker. And in fact, in most cases, it was given to the speaker before they left. That is almost real-time feedback. So before those speakers left Franklin, Tennessee, they had a report in their hand of their feedback, all the kudos, all the great things that you said about them, all the questions that you asked of the speakers, and they responded to those, as I'll tell you in just a moment. I put more ... because there's more questions, but each speaker then took all the questions that you asked, and then they in turn closed the loop. They shared the answers back with the audience. And then we also asked if you want to be put on their list, and we shared your name and email only if you said you wanted to be on their list. So each speaker closed the loop in a different way. Anna Powers put together a Facebook video. So all the questions that came in, she then read them live on a broadcast and shared some answers. And Dr. Doug Pugh did as well on his Facebook page. You can still go there and you'll see his video where he answers your questions. Juliana Stakursky did it by email, I believe, because she had contacted me before, and even answering questions that you had before the event and doing it by email. So that was her way of closing the loop. And Pat Quinn from Advance Your Reach, I was on his list, so I saw that he sent a follow-up message to everyone that wanted to be on his list. So each speaker closed the loop in a different way. So imagine that for your own event, if you host an event, or if you're a speaker at an event, to be able to get real-time feedback like that, and then be able to pull those questions from the audience, because there's not a lot of time to ask questions. You thought of questions later, and then each speaker closed the loop and shared answers, which was then shared with everybody. So there were some great questions you hadn't thought of that were then made known to everybody. So that's the power of this strategy that we used at Ray's event and have used in many other events. All right, after the event. The question after event is, what do you do with these people? And it seems like a lot of digital marketer types and gurus don't really know. After the webinar is over, a sales webinar, most people don't buy. Well, what do you do with them? A lot of people just, well, I'm going to drop them into my blog list, or I don't know, I'll give their names to a partner of mine to try to sell them something. My point for this, for the strategy that we used, is you keep them focused on you. These are people who attended your event. They might have taken your online course. They might have attended your webinar. Keep that conversation going. I call it the survey conversation. You've been asking questions before the event and giving answers. And then during the event, asking questions, closing the loop. What do you do after the event? Keep on asking questions and keep closing the loop. And that's what we did. We actually sent, if you were at Ray's event, you should have noticed that you received 7 emails and some reminders in the 6 weeks after the event. I'm going to share the data to that to show you how powerful this technique is. The first I just called final thoughts. This was the final evaluation. So you got an email that looked exactly like this one here that said, hey, would you evaluate the sessions? And many of you did it at the event, but then we did a follow-up asking you. So this is a request, just a pure request. But I write in here that if you respond, I will close the loop. I'm going to share what others had to say. And then that's what we did. On the second email, here's the findings right here, summary findings. When asked if the event will have a positive impact on your business, 91% agreed and 2% disagreed. That was the actual data. So close the loop to let you know that your voice was heard, that you answered the final evaluation. Here's what everybody else said. This is actually longer. I gave a lot more results in the email. But look, I had another request. Can you tell me your best takeaway? So this is a kind of email, I call it the close the loop plus request. This is important because I'm going to show you the open rates and click rates on each of these. You'll see how these have increased over time. The third email is also a close the loop in sharing the kudos, because that was one of the questions from the speakers, is do you have any kudos for the speakers and anybody else at the event? You have kudos for the staff or the people that did the recordings. And then I went on, this is probably, well, if you're not in Ray's VIP Facebook, you won't be able to see that. But if you are, it's still available there, I'm sure, where I read off the kudos, the actual verbatim comments given by you, the audience, to each person. I also put in what I call a soft request. This is just a self-serving thing. That Rusty Ryle, the Major League Baseball player that we all met at Ray's event, had a podcast, has a new podcast, and I was one of the guests, 4th guest on his show, and I was just telling people to go to Rusty's site and check out that podcast. So I call that a soft request. The 4th email was a pure gift, and the gift was, here's the takeaways. So I've asked everybody what was your top takeaway, and then we put those into a top 10 list. So there was no request, it was just, here's the stuff. Here's closing the loop. I'm sharing with you what everybody else said. 5th email was a request. Hey, can you click this link? I have a survey for you. Is actually just one question, the question being, what would be a big problem that you'd want solved? But again, I tell people I'm going to close the loop. I'm going to share those results with you. And on email 6, I did that. I closed the loop. You can see, I cut it off after the first few here. But this was a list of what people said. I want to learn how to do a podcast. I want to learn how to do one-on-one coaching. I want to know how to create a launch sequence. That was what they were saying they would want to hear from Ray. That was the question on the previous email. I closed the loop and shared the results. And then finally, the 7th and last email, the reason you're here now is I made a big request. That is, hey, do you want to see the results of what we did at the event? That at this point, 84% of you are still opening the emails. You want to see how I made that happen. So that was the big request. So those are the 7 emails. And so I put the requests in green, but there they are, 1 through 7. Let me share the data for that. So for the initial request, that is, would you fill out the final evaluation? About almost 37% of you opened that, about 19% of you clicked it and filled out the final evaluation. Now that is low, but that's because many of you had already filled it out on your phone at the event, and there was really no need to fill out that final evaluation. But look at the increase. There's a solid request in email 5, which was about asking you a question. Would you click this link and fill out this survey? Look at the open rate has doubled, and the click rate has gone up significantly. And the reason for that is this strategy. I call it sideways survey. It's keeping the conversation going, closing the loop. It's using the psychology that we know works and the science that we know works. And then the big request, that is to come to this webinar, 78% of you opened that, and 1/3 of you clicked. Again, the numbers keep going up. Now, this violates what most people say. Like, don't people get survey fatigue? And I'm like, yeah, if you do it wrong. But if you're sharing the results with people, why would they not respond again and again and again? And the answer is they do. That's the point. Keeping your customers forever, your members forever, your attendees forever, your clients, your students, your employees, your people focused on you by showing them that their voice was heard and what they said made a difference. To put this in perspective, the gift had an 84, that's where I got the 84%. That was the highest opening in this series, even higher than this last request, and the most clicks. That was a pure give. So that's, hopefully you're getting 41% clicks and 84% opens, but if you're not, this is a technique that you should use, I believe. So that was the actual data. Let me show you on the request side, just as a comparison. So this actually involves some work. You're asking people to do something for you. Can you click this, take some action, a call to action, but it's prefaced with a give. I'm sharing some results with you. Oh, by the way, can you click this link? I have another question for you. But look, the click rates continue to go up. The open rates continue to go up. There wasn't any click to do on this close the loop, but so I put just 69% here. From 36 to 69%, the numbers keep going up. And when you put all the requests together, these are all the things that involve some work. Look at the numbers, 33. Now there's a little dip here, right? 34% went down just a little bit on the opens, but then heading back up, 44, 72, 78, and the same with the click rates going up and up and up. And this is the same pattern I have seen now for more than 22 years having done this, is by asking the right questions in the right way at the right time, sharing the results, you get incredible high numbers, high accuracy, a lot of response rate, which is good for looking at the accuracy of the data, but you're keeping people focused on you. And I've done this in a training programs, live training programs, one where we asked people for feedback 19 days in a row. Imagine filling out 19 surveys, and they weren't just one question. They were like 13 and 14 item questions. At the end of the training event, the response rate was 96%. It hadn't varied over that time. It did not drop. Why would people keep filling out the same survey over and over? Because we were taking the results and closing the loop, sharing some results with them, and then demonstrating to them that the training was getting better based on their feedback. Why would they stop responding? They get so much out of it every time. So how do you convert this into dollars? Well, the results of the sequence, I call the sideways survey sequence of requests and closing the loop in this particular order. The open rates for Ray's event from the start at the end of the event, the first email to the last email, the open rates went up 113%. The click rates went up 78%. Only 3.3% unsubscribed. So some people got 7 emails or maybe as many as 14 with the reminders, just 3% unsubscribed. And that data makes sense to me, because you'll notice when I ask people, what did you think of Ray's event? 91% said, yeah, they loved it. 2%, I believe, was the data I just showed you in that previous screen, said they didn't like it, which happens. And so I'll have to cross-reference that, but I would imagine those might be the same people that unsubscribe. So that's not too surprising, but very low rate. And that's what this sequence does. It helps you keep your customers forever. 1/3 of everyone on that list have continued to fill out the surveys. And we could keep this going for weeks and weeks and months, as I have with other clients, but I wanted to do a stop here at week 6 just to show you what was going on behind the scenes, so you know, hey, why do I keep getting all these surveys about Ray's events? And that's what it's all about. Now, I think my numbers are actually artificially low because you'll have more advantages to me. I think my numbers are way down a bit. First off, you'll notice everything I said was dear friends, because I didn't have your first names. That we didn't ask for first names on the original emails. So this isn't my event, right? This is Ray's event. So these aren't my people like they are his people. So you will have that advantage. Your numbers should be higher than this. So I'm giving you hopefully what I think is more baseline level, where you could personalize your emails. I'm also not a copywriter. If you're at this event, you're probably either a copywriter or want to be a copywriter. You have much better skills than I do. I'm sure you could write better subject heading lines and catchy copy than I would. So a lot of people, when they see these numbers, they talk about the magic. And I say it's not magic, it's just science. It's based on the science and psychology that has always worked and that I've used myself since the 1990s, not to tell you my age or anything, but it's asking the right questions in the right way before your event as people are coming into your door, whether it be for your webinar or for your online course or your live training or an upcoming broadcast, asking them questions during the event, during your live event, during your course, during your membership, during their lifetime of their membership, and then asking them questions after the event. If you're selling from stage, if you're selling from a webinar, the vast majority of people aren't going to buy, right? Well, what do you do with those folks? You keep asking questions. You keep engaging them by asking them important questions that will have some meaning to them, that's going to be of some benefit to them. And then you use that information to learn more about them. Oh, okay, well, you didn't like that product. I thought that was pretty good. I thought that might have helped you. But now that I've asked you some questions now over a couple of weeks, now I see. Maybe this service is more something that you like. Be able to offer them that as well. And that's how you turn asking and giving and sharing their own insights back with them and turn that into lifetime customers. So there is some deep science behind this. That's why I asked you to hit the subscribe below and to be notified, because I'm going to do some upcoming videos on the actual principles behind this. So it works because there are 9 principles behind this that are backed by decades of data, not just mine, but my colleagues and all the psychologists who have gone before me as to why this would work. But for now, I want you to be able to apply these principles to your audience. At your live events, you might be hosting your own event. You might be a speaker at somebody else's event. You might be doing live webinars, either sales or informational, even evergreens. I've tried that as well. And these principles work really well with evergreen webinars as well. So any kind of broadcast, doing a YouTube videos or Hangouts, any kind of live training, you can apply this to. And any place that you want to keep your people forever. By people, of course, I mean students and clients and members and attendees and your readers of your blogs. How do you keep them focused on you in your membership site? Membership sites are great, but they have huge attrition rates, right? How do you keep those people members? Same with masterminds. I've been in 3 paid masterminds, a bunch of free ones, but 3, kind of high dollar masterminds with huge attrition rates. You turn around the next year, 60 or 70% don't re-up. How do you keep those people in that audience? And it's the same principles: asking the right questions in the right way, closing the loop, sharing what the collective wisdom of everybody in the group so that they can help them on their business, and doing it systematically so they can see that their voice was heard, that what they said made a difference. Same with your online courses. I've been applying these principles to online courses since 1996. No, 1995. That's when it was. There was this new thing called the World Wide Web, and we were putting training onto the internet. I was evaluating how training was done on this World Wide Web. But at that time, still applying the same psychological principles to keep people in their seats, keep them focused on you, and then get them to buy another course once they've taken your first course. We've applied this to product launches. If you imagine being able to keep that audience, I know there are some techniques for doing that, but this is so much a powerful technique for getting people to focus on you and stay with you before the launch, during the launch, and after the launch. Same with online summits. We've applied this to online summits, which is a very complex thing. I don't do online summits, but I do gather the feedback and provide these principles on the summits. You can apply it to your Facebook groups. Of course, you want to keep people focused and answering questions that you ask in Facebook and LinkedIn. And I put exclamation marks, your email list, of course, as we've shown here, 84% open rates. You can get huge open rates, and we've documented this as well. I do have a video on that, so again, subscribe. I'll show you that in that particular video showing the results of email lists. So the questions that come up in my mind that you should ask yourself is, what if I got these results? What would be, to improve your email open rates to whatever they are now to 80%? What's that going to do as far as the call to actions that you put in your emails and the revenue from your emails? What would improving your webinar sales by 52%, which is the documented sales that we got using Sideways Survey, this technique of sharing answers and asking the right questions. What if you got 52% sales from your webinars? What would that do for your business? What if you could consistently get 100% of your audience to approve of you, to get high satisfaction rates, just like Ray's speakers got at their audience? Recall 100% of them got yeses as, did this help my business? What if you could get 100% approval from stage, on camera, on your webinars, on any kind of live training? What would that do for your career? This one I put in italics because I don't have the data completed yet. We're still monitoring this. But the goal here is to get 100% of members to stay on a monthly membership month after month. So we're still monitoring that. But I do have data for this one. This is now 24 months of data collected. The average increase in attendance is 41% using this technique on webinars and for launches. So that is asking the right questions before the event, sharing those results on the webinar, on the broadcast, used by many, many people with many, many different audiences. The average increase in attendance, 41%. That's what the data shows. So that's my challenge for you. What's next? Read the description below. Down below, I listed a bunch of courses and videos and checklists and everything related to these topics. So if you're interested in boosting your open rates for emails, there's a top 10 list. If you click down below, you'll find that. If you're interested in increasing your webinar attendance by 41% and the sales by 52%, you can click below. I think it's an evergreen course that's there that will tell you more about that. If any of these are something that you do, if you do online courses or summits, or you host a page on Facebook or LinkedIn, click below and I put together a list or a checklist or something that you can use that will help you get these sorts of return rates and open rates. So thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll follow up with another video, again, showing you how to keep your customers forever. This is Doc Champagne. I'll see you on that next video.